The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is one of the most successful titles of the last years. It went back to the basics, comparing itself to the first Legend of Zelda title, leaving the player with an open world which they can explore as much as they like. Not only was it extremely successful, it also brought back the series from what seemed like a bottomless pit when it came to the sales of the games. Looking at the sales numbers, Skyward Sword sold way less in its first month than other titles that came before. But why did Aonuma decide to go this way? Well, let's have a look. Nintendo was present at the Game Developers Conference, short GDC, last year, and showed their thought process and their ideas behind Breath of the Wild. They talked about their ideas of aliens invading Hyrule, showed their enemy concepts, talked about the Havoc engine, and so on. It was a full-fledged, in-depth talk about their latest title, which is very uncommon for such a big studio. This made it even more of a surprise to actually see Nintendo participate in an event that caters towards smaller developers, and which is about sharing your experience. Nintendo usually uses a 4-year development cycle for the main Zelda titles. So, assuming the title released in 2017, the concept art they have shown should be from 2013. Wait, what? The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword released in 2011. So, there was a 2-year break in between? If there was, then that would be extremely unusual for Nintendo, as there has pretty much never been a break between titles. And even if you argue that the release was pushed back in order to release along with the Nintendo Switch, there was still a gap of 1.5 years where nothing happened.
Furthermore, every console launched by Nintendo had their main Zelda title. The NES had The Legend of Zelda and The Legend of Zelda 2, the SNES had A Link to the Past, the N64 had Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, the GameCube had The Wind Waker, and the Wii had Skyward Sword. And then there's the Wii U, which has to share its title with the Nintendo Switch. So what exactly happened? It could be speculated that the issue was the Wii U sales numbers, but as the Nintendo Switch released in 2017, that wasn't really the issue. After all, the new Legend of Zelda title was meant to be an insane selling point for the Wii U, and in fact, there was no wasted time between the titles. Nintendo actually worked on Breath of the Wild. It just wasn't Breath of the Wild yet. Furthermore, it wasn't anywhere close. And we're not talking about the development standpoint here. Back in mid-2012, Nintendo was interviewed about the current state of the upcoming Zelda title. According to this interview, the game was originally set to be released in late 2013, but was ultimately pushed back as that was an unrealistic goal due to the size of the project. In the interview, Nintendo made clear how much they cared about the mechanics of the Wii U gamepad. They stated that dungeons would include a lot of features using the unique abilities of the Wii U gamepad, which will leave a lasting impressions for lots of developers to copy, even years after it's released. In addition, they stated that their first forest test dungeons were about 3 times as big as Hyrule Field in Ocarina of Time. And here lies our catch, and probably the turning point of the entire development. When Nintendo worked on the Wii U title, they originally used Ocarina of Time as their guide. They stated that the game will feature about as many dungeons as the previous titles had, but they'll be broken into multiple smaller dungeons, which will take hours to complete. As development moved on, a link between worlds started to take shape. Aonuma and his team probably realized that following a set path is rather dull compared to having a choice in which order to beat the dungeons. After a longer amount of reconsideration, they decided to go back to the concept phase of the game and basically threw it all away. And instead of attempting to make the title as good as Ocarina of Time, they tried to go back as far as the original title for the NES. Aonuma even states in a later interview that he basically forgot how fun it can be to get lost in an open world and explore areas you aren't led to. This is probably also the reason why we didn't get to see as much as we would expect after 3 years of development at E3 2014. Not only does the area in the trailer not exist anymore, the footage that was shown in the gameplay session during 2016 still had a magic bar in the screen under the health of the player. While it would make sense that this magic bar was meant to be used for things such as fire arrows at some point, it could also be a leftover of what once was the scrapped Wii U title. especially considering that cell shading, as well as the Havoc engine, were meant to be implemented from the start. There was no need to rewrite everything.
So Nintendo just left that magic bar in until they reached the polishing phase of the development. If you look at it this way, Nintendo actually managed to keep their 4-year development cycle. However, chances are that some mechanics, such as the ball mazes, were ideas that originated from the very first test dungeons Nintendo made before heading back to the drawing board, and could possibly still be found today. And who knows which mechanics were transferred from the earlier development days, and what the games would have been like. In the end, Nintendo didn't reinvent the wheel, but thinking about it, it was probably a good idea of them to leave the old formula behind and focus on something fresh, even though we would have really liked to see those hour-long dungeons. Kind of a shame there's so much content that we yet again will never experience. Hey you there, thank you for watching. Be sure to click the annotations if you want to watch more videos, and be sure to click the subscribe and the bell button, because we make like 2 videos a week now, so like more content is coming, duh. Thank you, lovely.